Hello again, Gills fans. Welcome back to the latest episode of Gills in the Blood TV. It is Saturday lunchtime, slightly different from the norm, such as the Easter weekend as we enter the real business end of the season. But yeah, Saturday today doesn't involve a match day live, but it does involve looking back at Wednesday night's victory over relegation-haunted Wigan Athletic before we then preview with the aid of my third-tier pod co-host Tom Main, the massive game on Easter Monday at Bloomfield Road. The Gills travel up to take on 6th placed Blackpool. They knocked us out of the playoff zone with their win on Good Friday at Swindon. It has all the makings of an absolute classic. But first things first, Wednesday night, 5:30, we took on Liam Richardson's Latics. Come away with a 1-0 win. Did we deserve it? I'm not so sure, to be honest. I thought Wigan were decent throughout after a solid start from us. First half, I thought we put them under loads of pressure. We got loads of balls into their box and tested their centre halves. And I think I mentioned on the match day live that they looked pretty panicked at times. But in fairness to them, they rode it out. We didn't really test the keeper properly, apart from getting, aside from all them balls into the box. I think Jamie Jones had to come and punch corners again and good crosses. But I think it was only Alex McDonald's drive that he had to save. And they grew into it and had a couple of half chances themselves. One through Callum Lang, slight deflection of Conor Ogilvie that went through to Jack Bonham, and then Curtis Tilt up from the back, volleyed one over. I think, again, Jack Bonham would have had it covered if it was on target. But they were a threat, and they certainly didn't look like a side that was playing with a lack of confidence. Perhaps the news that they're being taken over, which is excellent for the area and excellent for the football club, and we wish them well on that score, gave them a bit of a lift. But second period, they were probably the better side. If you look at the chances created, Jamie Proctor misses an absolute sitter, and Steve Evans come out afterwards and said that we were trying to be a little bit more risky in terms of leaving bigger gaps between the midfield and the defence to get players higher up the pitch, the like of Carl Dempsey and Jordan Graham, etc. And it left us prone to counter-attacks and being picked off. And Wigan did that well until the final third, and then they couldn't hit the target. I know they hit the bar at 1-0. Good defending from Ryan Jackson and Verdane Oliver. But yeah, for me, a draw would have probably been a fair result. Certainly if I'd watched it as a neutral. As a home fan, I'm happy that we dug in and put our bodies on the line again. And of course, when that big chance came for Verdane Oliver, he tucked it away with a brilliant header from a really good Ryan Jackson cross. And that's back-to-back assists for Jacko from right back. I think he's been really good recently. He's been decent enough all season. And we know his attacking prowess with long throws and also getting on the outside of his winger and providing dangerous delivery. And he's starting to get his rewards as well. So yeah, a big win. A big clean sheet, a big 3 points that took us sick for 48 hours. But we certainly weren't at our best. And I imagine we're going to have to take up the same sort of mantra in remaining games where we might have to try and turn draws into wins and leave ourselves open to potentially losing football matches, which is great. I've got no issue with that. We're certainly not in any danger, are we? So let's go and have a real go and see how far it takes us. A couple of bits that came out of the game again. It just becomes a theme now, doesn't it? Opposition fans talking about us and how we supposedly play. Dominic Samuel's foul on Jamie Jones is a yellow card for me, no more. He's late. Jamie Jones is jumping out of the way. I'm not sure it's a leg breaker that Jones has tweeted out himself. Had a particularly interesting chat with a Wigan journalist on social media. It was perfectly polite. We both aired our own views and backed our own clubs, but I just found the match report from that point of view really weird. All the talk of Steve Evans being loud and vociferous and getting booked. Didn't mention the fact that Wigan's bench got booked as well. Mentioned the Dominic Samuel foul. Didn't mention the fact that Jamie Proctor swung his arm into Conor Ogilvie's face on 2 occasions. Didn't mention that Curtis Tilt went through the back of Oliver Lee and put him into the Medway stand, and then went through the back of Dominic Samuel, left him on the deck within a minute or so of each other second half. Didn't mention the fact that Callum Lang chucked himself to the floor on more than one occasion to try and win a penalty. And it just comes across as sour grapes to me again. And I mentioned to Barry, who came on the channel for the preview video, who runs the Wigan podcast in the community, and really nice bloke, Barry, and obviously we had different opinions on it, but yeah, it just comes across as sour grapes. I said to him, if you win the game as a Wigan fan and Jamie Jones is a victim of that tackle, are you making such a big deal out of it? I think we all know the answer, but such is life. It makes the world go round and it gives us all something to talk about. But I genuinely do hope Wigan stay up. I think Liam Richardson's doing an unbelievable job in pretty much impossible circumstances. probably hasn't known who's going to be available for selection from week to week. Such was the financial situation there. But it's great that they've been taken over, and fingers crossed that they're still in League One and we can have these debates again next season when they're on a more even footing and have some more decent and stable infrastructure in place. But that's enough about Wigan. We do now move on to Easter Monday's blockbuster game. There's a couple this Easter Monday, isn't there, in terms of the promotion and title race. It's not the only one. Us in 8th go to Blackpool in 6th. There's also Peterborough against Sunderland as well. But we travel north to Bloomfield Road to take on these. What an away day this would have been if we was able to go. Easter Monday, maybe in the sunshine, in Blackpool, watching our football team with a chance of getting in the playoffs. But such is COVID life still. It's not to be, and we'll all have to make do with I follow. But Neil Critchley done a really good job at Blackpool. I had them to finish 6th in my season preview video right back in the summer. I'm hoping I'm slightly wrong now, and it means that we can nick that place off them. But we're going to have to go up there and put in probably another season's best performance or very close. Tangerines are absolutely flying. Someone said to me on Twitter a couple of days ago, is this our biggest game since Northampton away, final day of 16-17, when we drew 0-0 and stayed up by the skin of our teeth? I think it probably is. A win would be absolutely huge for momentum and confidence, even if we had played more games than these other sides. I was looking at Blackpool's fixtures. They've literally got to play after Monday, Saturday, Tuesday for the rest of the campaign with their games in hand. So our games in hand really an advantage at this stage of the season? I'm not so sure, but it's certainly going to be an absolutely brilliant occasion, and fingers crossed it's a good game for everybody and both teams have a go. I'm going to leave you now with my friend Tom from the Seasiders pod. That's how I first got introduced to him at the start of the season. We chat quite a lot now on social media and WhatsApp, obviously doing the third tier podcast together, which is really good fun. So go and check that out if you haven't yet. You can find Tom at _Tom Mayne. That's MAYNE. You can check out their podcast, which is at Seasiders Pod. And of course, check my bio for the third tier, which is at the third tier. We go live every Monday. And this Monday will be an extended hour-and-a-half show looking back at the Easter weekend. But here is Tom now with all you need to know regarding Neil Critchley and Blackpool.
Morning, Matt. Massive game Monday. It's a game that I think I've been looking forward to the least in Blackpool's running, purely on the basis of I know the attack and threat you've got with Dean Oliver, Dempsey, a decent defensive midfielder in O'Keefe, and Cundy at the back is doing a decent job with Tucker, who can score goals as well, which we've seen at some points this season. So you've got a good core to your team, as have Blackpool. But we're at home and we've been a bit more vulnerable at home recently. I think we were unbeaten at home since October, but take into account that we're 11th in the form guide in the last 6 at home. Despite that stat, drawing 5 of those 6 and only beating Peterborough, which is a very decent victory. And if we're on it tomorrow on Monday, then we should have the qualities to win, and certainly the attack and press to put Gillingham under pressure for us to create chances. But if we start slow like we did against Plymouth, where they had 4 or 5 shots in the first 20 minutes and going 1-0 up, they should have been out of sight in respects to them. They played some decent football and we just weren't on it. Eventually pulled it back to 2-1, but then conceded another late goal, which we've made a habit of at home recently. So that's why we've drawn so many. We've been in attacking positions and let it slip at the last minute. Literally against Wimbledon, 91st minute, and as we saw against Plymouth in the 92nd. So how do we like to play at home? I'd like to say we like to press and like to keep the ball and create chances from that. It just hasn't quite ticked too much at home, because against certain sides where we'd like to see it, we've let them have the ball, and against better sides I think we could have been punished in the past. So we need to show what we did against Peterborough on Monday, and from the first whistle attack we got a goal obviously within the first minute against them. I doubt that's going to happen again, but if we're on our game, then the press is certainly going to hurt Gillingham, and if we're not on our game, you're going to hurt us with the football you play and the chances you create. And you've got a very decent striker in Dane Oliver. O'Keefe is, they anchor in midfield. You've got Graham, Dempsey. We know their attack and threats and how they can cause us problems. And Tucker and Cundy at the back have impressed me this season. So Yeah, it's certainly a game where if we're not on it, you can hurt us, and maybe damage that unbeaten record since October and do a dent in the playoff hope. So I'm not looking forward to it one bit. If we're not on it, then it could be an uncomfortable afternoon for us. And if we are on it, I'd like to see how we cope with the style of play. You putting your bodies about and trying to hurt us, but not only that, keeping the ball on the floor and creating those chances for Big Vidine Oliver. And it's one of those games where if you go 1-0 up and we're not quite on our game, then we've got to find another way to win. I'd like to see us go back to a 4-2-3-1. We played 4-4-2 yesterday against Swindon. We weren't as creative, but we did keep the ball reasonably well against a side that sat back all game and made it difficult for us. Ella Sims getting a really good goal on the stroke of half time, and Yates Cooley going around the keeper on the hour mark. It was a relatively comfortable win in the end, and yeah, that's 5-0 away from home. It's just that home form I'm worried about. But we both sit similar in the last 10 matches. You're on a very decent run of form and very consistent. I think away from home, you've won 2, drawn 2, and lost 2 in the last 6. So which Gillingham is going to turn up, I'm not too sure. But it's a game where it's probably bigger for us than it is you. You've got nothing to lose, and you want to come to us and score as many goals as possible. And we all know you defend reasonably well. So score prediction. I'll be brave and say we're going to turn up Monday and we're going to win 2-1. That will damage your playoff hopes, quite a lot. But I'd like to think we've got the quality coming back to our side, and we will have enough to win. Yates is in decent form. We've got Gretterson and Ballard back, who are decent centre-backs. Gabriel right back. Garbutt left back can hurt you from set pieces. Dougal hopefully coping with O'Keefe in the middle, and Ward giving us that energy. And we'll have Mitchell and Kaikai hopefully attacking on the left and right wing to feed Yates. So I'm really not looking forward to the game, but it should be a decent one. Gills have played decent football despite their criticisms this season. So good luck for Monday, mate. Hopefully it's a decent game, and hopefully we're on talking terms by the end of it.
It's all the inside information there. I think that's everything we need to know as Gillingham fans. So thank you, Tom, for getting that sorted out for me today at late notice, because I forgot to ask you in giving you more time. So appreciate that. Fingers crossed we're still talking to each other come 5 p.m. Easter Monday. Let's have a look at the comparative form. Last 6, Blackpool. Draw, win, win, draw, win. 12 points from 18 over the last 6. No defeats. They're undefeated, I think, since February in League One. Haven't lost at home since last year. Gills, though, only a point worse off. There was 1 defeat, and then that's been followed by win, win, draw, win. So we've taken 11 points from the last 18, but they've come in the last 5 games. Solitary defeat, like I say. So pretty even in terms of all-round form in League One. Looking at Blackpool at Bloomfield Road over the last half dozen. It's only 1 win, but again, it's no defeats. There's 5 draws in there as well. So taken 8 from 18 at home, but they have only kept 1 clean sheet in that time. I think that was a 0-0 draw at home to their filed coast rivals Fleetwood Town. Gills over the same period on the road. Lost, drawn, lost, 1-1 drawn. So 8 points as well. But then 7 of them 8 have come in the last 3 games. 3 games unbeaten away from the Priestfield. CJ Hamilton, I think, and Matty Virtue out for the season. I think that's correct. I'm sure I've read or heard from Tom. So that'll be big blows for Blackpool. But they've got plenty of good players. They've got a big squad and lots of options. Chris Maxwell, the goalkeeper, is very solid. Kept loads of clean sheets this season. He's one I've really rated. He was decent at Blackpool a few years ago before going up to the Championship with Preston. Obviously got a thick skin, that fella. Ollie Turton, defender, been consistently playing games this season. Sully Kaikai will be a threat if he's at it. Grant Ward in midfield, decent experience, played a lot of games. Jerry Yates, the man to look out for, their version of Vidane Oliver. He's got 16 in 32 in League One this season, so he's got 2 more than Vidane. He's got 4 in his last 3. We know Big V's got 8 in his last 8 through March that comfortably won him our Gills in the Blood TV Player of the Month award, the biggest non-contest since I started doing that. But interestingly, no other player for Blackpool has scored more than 5 in the league. So if you can keep Yates quiet, then you've got half a chance of keeping Blackpool quiet. CJ Hamilton has 5, but like I say, I think he's out for the rest of the season. So I think it's 4 after that of players available. So that makes for an interesting side element to the game indeed. And if I'm sure they're saying the same, if they can keep Verdane Oliver quiet, they've got a great chance. But then we do have Jordan Graham, who's in double figures, Carl Dempsey's on 8, I think John Akindi's on 7. So we do have threats all over the park. I'm not saying that Blackpool don't, of course, but Jerry Yates is shouldering the burden of their goal scoring. Right, team news for us. I've not seen anything come out of the Wigan game to suggest that anybody else is unavailable. So Robbie Cundy will be the only one. I think he is training, so should be available for selection. So for me, it's only Callum Slattery that won't be available, still recovering from that ankle problem. Team for me then would be Jack Bonham in goal, a back 4 of Ryan Jackson, Jack Tucker, Connor Ogilvie and Tommy O'Connor. A midfield 4 would be Jordan Graham, Carl Dempsey, Stuart O'Keefe, Alex McDonald, and my front 2 would be John Akindi and Verdane Oliver. I would not change it. I think there's a case for Robbie Cundy coming back in, such as his form has been since arriving, such as the effect he's had on Jack Tucker in terms of giving him a consistent partner. But I just think it'd be very harsh on Tom O'Connor, who'd surely be the primary candidate to come out. I think he's had two very good games since playing at left back, and we've taken 4 points from 6. Winning on Wednesday and a really good draw up at the league leaders last Saturday. So for me, same 11. Bench would be Sacha Bastien, Robbie Cundy back on there, and out comes Henry Wood, Robbie McKenzie, Matty Willock, Ollie Lee, Tyreek Johnson and Dominic Samuel make up our substitutes bench for me. And the big question, score prediction. You've heard Tom's, he's confident if Blackpool turn up and are at it, they can beat us 2-1. I just think looking at their form at home, lots of draws, us away, been solid enough, if a little inconsistent. The fact that a draw wouldn't be a disaster for either side. It'd tick off an away game against a direct rival for us without getting beat. Blackpool would think if we get a point, we've still got games in hand to keep the likes of Gills at bay. So for that reason, I'm going to go for a final score of Blackpool 1, Gillingham 1. Can't really back anyone apart from Verdane Oliver to score our goal at the moment, can I? Right, that is enough from me. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday. Enjoy the rest of your extended weekend. I will be back on Monday for a match day live for the biggest game of the season by some distance. We'll be live at 7:30, I think, on the Third Tier podcast with Tom and Ben, and also a load of guests, hopefully, if we can get that sorted out, looking back at the Easter weekend and then ahead to next Saturday's fixtures. But yeah, please keep liking, subscribing, telling everybody about us. If you're a fan of League One or Gills in particular, it'd be great if you could go and drop us a like and a subscribe. We are on the road to 1,600 before the end of the season. I think we need 51, so all the help is greatly appreciated. Continue to check out Fan Hub. We are approaching 3,000 fans. The movement is on the march. Keep an eye out for them golden tickets to skip the waiting list. But until next time, up the Gills.